What happens when two women who once ruled Atlanta's reality empire turn on each other, live, on camera? When loyalty built over years collapses in a single night? When friendship turns into fury, and the empire they built starts to crumble before millions of watching eyes? This is not just another love and hip-hop feud. This is the night everything exploded between Yandy Smith and Rasheeda, the two names that once defined power, sisterhood, and unstoppable hustle. It was supposed to be just another filming day, lights, cameras, a little shade for drama, nothing new. But that day? Something in the air was different. The crew could feel it. The silence before a storm no one was ready for. For years, Yandy and Rasheeda had walked side by side, business partners, friends, survivors of the chaos that reality TV breeds. They fought battles together, defended each other, built empires that inspired millions. But somewhere along the line, loyalty started to rot. And no one, not even the producers, saw how deep that betrayal ran. It began quietly. A deal gone wrong. Money missing. Whispers of backstabbing. Rasheeda felt betrayed. Yandy felt misunderstood. But instead of talking it out, both women did what reality stars do best. They smiled for the cameras, while their friendship slowly died behind the scenes. And then came the breaking point. A luxury event space in Atlanta. Velvet couches. Glittering chandeliers. Cameras rolling. Producers thought it would be another glamorous group scene. But the second Rasheeda and Yandy locked eyes, the room changed. Laughter stopped. Even the background music seemed to fade. Everyone could feel it. Something real. Something dangerous. Yandy stepped forward, calm but firm. "We need to talk," she said, her voice low, controlled. But Rasheeda was not here to talk. "Talk about what, Yandy? About how you smile in my face while you stab me in the back." The room froze. Cast members held their breath. Producers exchanged terrified glances. This was not a storyline. This was real pain, years in the making, and it was about to explode on national television. "You know I had your back for years." Yandy snapped, voice trembling with anger. Rasheeda shot back, "If that is what loyalty looks like to you, I do not want it. You cost me money. Real money." And then it happened. Voices rose. Chairs moved. Security rushed in. Tears, fury, heartbreak, all captured by the cameras that kept rolling long after producers screamed, "Cut." The footage was so intense that production was forced to shut down filming completely. Sponsors backed out. Contracts were paused. And fans? They flooded the internet demanding answers, dissecting every second of leaked clips. Hashtags exploded, hashtag Yandy vs Rasheeda, hashtag friendship over, hashtag LHH Atlanta meltdown. What no one realized that night was that this fight was not just about business. It was about betrayal, sisterhood, and pride, the kind of betrayal that does not just hurt your heart, it burns your legacy. And now? The entire franchise stands on shaky ground. Because if Yandy and Rasheeda, the faces of unity, could fall apart like this, then what is left of love and hip-hop Atlanta? And then, it happened. The calm cracked. The silence turned into fire. "No, you knew exactly what you were doing," Rasheeda snapped, her voice trembling with fury, "when you tried to push me out of something I helped build. Do not rewrite history because you are angry now." It was not fear that filled the room, it was rage. Real, raw, years in the making rage. Security began to inch closer. Everyone could feel it, the air changing, the temperature dropping. The argument was no longer just words, it was energy, explosive and unpredictable. Carly froze. Sierra gasped. Jock whispered something under his breath. They had seen drama before, sure, this show was built on it, but this? This was different. This was not entertainment. This was two queens of Atlanta's empire going for each other's throats in front of the world. Then it happened, the sound of a glass slamming against the table echoed through the set. Rasheeda's drink splashed across the floor, her voice cracking as she shouted, "You are a fraud, Yandy." That was the snap. The breaking point. Yandy lunged forward, not to attack, but to finally confront the woman she once called her sister. Security surged in. Hands grabbed arms. Cameras zoomed closer. Chaos erupted like a bomb. Crew members screamed for the cameras to keep rolling. One producer shouted, "Do not cut." Because they knew it. This was television history. The biggest, rawest, most unfiltered moment love and hip-hop Atlanta had ever captured. And then, just as quickly, silence again. Rasheeda, shaking, ripped the mic pack from her body and hurled it to the floor. "I am done with this fake nonsense. I am not doing this anymore," she screamed. She stormed out, heels pounding, tears streaking, fury radiating. The camera stayed fixed on Yandy. Breathing hard. Eyes wet. Her voice cracked as she whispered something no one could quite make out. Security still held her back, as if expecting the next explosion. Cast members scattered. Crew ran in every direction. And then came the words that froze everyone in their tracks: shut it down. Not pause. Not take 5. Shut it down. Production officially halted. Within hours, chaos spilled from the set to the internet. Someone from the crew had filmed the altercation on their phone and leaked it. By midnight, hashtags were everywhere: hashtag Yandy vs Rasheeda, hashtag Love and Hip Hop Shutdown, hashtag End of an Era. The world watched in disbelief. Comment sections flooded with shock, betrayal, and heartbreak. How could they fall apart like this? Fans wrote. Bloggers dropped exclusive sources, whispering about secret contracts, business sabotage, even affairs. It was digital wildfire, every fan, every gossip page, every reaction channel hungry for more. This was not just another feud. This was a collapse of an empire. Two of the most powerful women in the franchise, now enemies. And the foundation of Love and Hip Hop Atlanta was trembling. Hours later, the network released a cold, lifeless statement: due to unforeseen circumstances, filming has been temporarily suspended for the safety of our cast and crew. But everyone knew. This was not temporary. This was seismic. This was the kind of moment that ends eras. Behind the scenes, the group chat was chaos. Fingers pointed everywhere. Some blamed Rasheeda for losing her temper. Others blamed Yandy for playing games behind the scenes. And some whispered the real truth, that producers had let it happen for ratings. But it was too late. The damage was done. Both women had gone silent, retreating to their teams, their families, their safe spaces. And one thing was clear: this was not a wound that could be healed with a reunion special or an Instagram apology. This was war. By morning, Atlanta was awake and buzzing. Not with gossip. With disbelief. This was the story. The streets were talking. The blogs were publishing every rumor they could find. Fans refreshed their feeds like it was the Super Bowl of reality TV. Hashtag Yandy vs Rasheeda was everywhere. Every timeline. Every trending list. And while the internet fed on the drama, behind closed doors, things were collapsing. Yandy sat in her living room, phone on silent, scrolling through hundreds of missed calls. Sponsors were pulling out. One voicemail from a brand rep said flatly, "We cannot be associated with this kind of negative press." Rasheeda's phone was no quieter. Paparazzi outside her store. Business partners demanding explanations. She had spent years building her image as the composed, level-headed boss. And now, in a single night, it had all cracked. The fallout was not just emotional. It was financial. The business deal that had sparked their feud, a luxury fashion and beauty collaboration worth 7 figures, was in ruins. Rasheeda believed Yandy had undercut her, secretly signing a deal that cut her out of major profits. Yandy swore Rasheeda had backed out first and tried to twist the narrative. Both women claimed betrayal. Both refused to back down. And now? The empire they had built together stood in ashes, and the entire world was watching. Neither woman wanted to admit defeat. Neither wanted to be the villain. Each believed she was right, and that the other had twisted the truth. And now? Instead of cashing in on what could have been the biggest collaboration of their careers, they were watching it all burn, on every blog, in every headline, across every social feed in the country. Money, power, loyalty, betrayal. The 4 pillars of reality television, collapsing in real time. Inside the network, chaos erupted. Executives called emergency meetings within hours of the fight. One senior producer allegedly said, "If Yandy and Rasheeda are gone, we might as well pull the plug. They are the anchors, without them, there is no show." And the terrifying truth? He was right. These were not background cast members. These were the faces of the franchise, the reason millions tuned in. Their images were on every billboard, their names tied to the show's identity. Losing one would hurt, losing both could destroy the entire brand. Meanwhile, social media was on fire. Fans picked sides like it was a heavyweight title match. Yandy has always been fake, Rasheeda just said what we were all thinking. Others clapped back, Rasheeda cannot handle another boss in the room. The comments section became a battlefield, hashtags everywhere, hashtag Team Yandy, hashtag Team Rasheeda, hashtag Queens at War. Even castmates could not resist. Carly Red went live on Instagram with a sly laugh and said, "Chilly, y'all do not even know half of it. This about to get messy." Within minutes, 50,000 people were watching, screen recording every word. And then, Mendez, Yandy's partner, posted a cryptic story, "Not everyone who smiles at you is real. Sometimes the sharpest knife comes from the hand that helped you." Fans instantly took it as a jab at Rasheeda. Hours later, Rasheeda clapped back with a post of her own, "Some people build bridges just so they can burn them later and play the victim." The internet exploded. Shade had become open war. Every tweet, every caption was a loaded weapon. This was no longer a private feud, it was a public spectacle. And just when it felt like things could not get worse, TMZ dropped a bombshell. A leaked report claimed that producers were debating whether to cancel or completely rebrand the upcoming season. Sponsors were threatening to walk. One insider was quoted saying, "We cannot sell a show built on two women who cannot even be in the same room without tearing it apart." It was a nightmare. The most anticipated season in franchise history might not even air. Yandy's manager begged her to issue a statement, to control the narrative. But she refused. She was not going to play nice. Not after what she called a betrayal I did not deserve. Rasheeda felt the same way. And then came the ultimatum. Both women received official notices from production, either agree to mediation, or face immediate suspension from filming. It was unprecedented, the first time in franchise history that two lead cast members had been issued a formal warning like this. Rasheeda's reaction was instant and defiant. "I built this show. They are not shutting me down." Yandy's response hit just as hard. "They should have stepped in before it got this far. Do not try to save face now." The spiral had begun. Both women doubled down, refusing to blink. And as they did, the network quietly started drawing up shutdown plans, a decision that would shake the entire love and hip-hop empire. This was not just a feud anymore. This was the beginning of the end. By day 3, it was no longer gossip. It was headline news. The entertainment industry itself had turned its attention to Atlanta. What started as a heated argument between two powerhouses had become a full-scale crisis. Production was still frozen. Security was still on standby. Sponsors were withholding checks. And both Yandy Smith and Rasheeda were more entrenched than ever, not backing down, not apologizing, not blinking. For years, their bond had been complicated but unbreakable, built on mutual respect, competition, and quiet tension. That chemistry made for great television. But now, that same tension had detonated. Fans were calling it the Fall of Queens. The set? Silent. No lights. No cameras. No music. Just whispers. Crew members who had worked with them for years huddled in corners, unsure what would happen next. The producers finally called a mandatory cast meeting. But this was not about damage control anymore. This was about survival. Inside a dim conference room, executives, producers, and lawyers sat on one side of a long table. On the other, Yandy and Rasheeda, seated apart, eyes locked but unflinching. No glam squads. No cameras. No bodyguards. Just two women who once called each other sister, now sitting like enemies in a silent war. A senior producer cleared her throat. "Ladies, we are not here to point fingers. We are here because the show cannot go on like this. You both are the face of this franchise. If this continues, there might not be a show." Yandy leaned back, arms crossed. "So now it is on us to fix it? Where were you when things were spiraling out of control? You let it burn for ratings, and now you want us to clean it up?" Rasheeda snapped before the sentence even finished. "Do not act like this is all on production. You made your choice, Yandy. You went behind my back, and you are still spinning the story like you are the victim." Yandy's tone dropped cold. "Then own what you did." That was it. The temperature in the room rose instantly. Security in the hallway moved closer. A producer slammed her pen on the table and shouted, "Enough." Silence. But it was too late. The damage was already done. The empire of love and hip-hop Atlanta, built on glitz, loyalty, and drama, was now standing on the edge of collapse. It was clear now, this wound was never going to heal in one meeting. Not this time. Not after the chaos that had already unfolded. But the stakes were too high for anyone to walk away. Behind closed doors, the network's legal team had already drafted the paperwork. If an agreement was not reached, Love and Hip Hop Atlanta would officially shut down. That did not mean a filming delay. It meant lights off. Sets closed. Hundreds of people, camera crews, makeup artists, stylists, assistants, all losing their jobs overnight. Millions in ad revenue, gone. A legacy that took over a decade to build, on the verge of collapsing. And the worst part? Yandy and Rasheeda both knew it. They knew exactly what was at stake. But pride can be louder than logic. Yandy finally broke the silence. "I built this brand just like you did. But I will not be bullied into taking the blame for something I did not do." Rasheeda leaned forward, her tone ice cold. "You already did the damage. Now live with it." The air in that room could have cut glass. That was when one of the original producers, someone who had been there since season 1, finally snapped. She stood up, her voice trembling but firm. "You two think this is about you? It's not. It's about everyone outside this room whose paychecks depend on the show. It's about a legacy we all built together. And right now, you're tearing it down." The words hit hard. For the first time since the blow-up, both women went silent. Not with regret, but with realization. The empire was burning, and they were holding the matches. Hours of tense negotiation followed. After endless back and forth, they reached a fragile truce, mediation. They would film separately for now, agree to appear in a controlled resolution session later, and, at least publicly, stop the shade. It was not peace. It was containment. But by then, the image of the show was already shattered. Gossip blogs were reporting secret alliances within the cast. Rumors spread that Bambi and Carly were quietly siding with Rasheeda, while Ciara was standing with Yandy. Even Jock joined the chaos, posting a single cryptic tweet: "Queens fighting is bad for business." Fans screenshotted it instantly. Debates ignited under every post. The internet was a war zone, hashtag Team Yandy versus hashtag Team Rasheeda, with everyone picking sides like it was the Super Bowl of reality TV. Then, boom. Another TMZ headline hit. Sponsors threatened to pull millions from Love and Hip Hop ATL amid explosive feud. Two major sponsors had already paused payments, citing brand misalignment. Translation? If this mess did not calm down soon, the show was finished. The producers called it a crisis. The fans called it the end of an era. But to Yandy and Rasheeda, it was personal. By day 4, the feud had officially grown beyond their control. It was not a storyline anymore, it was a monster. Fueled by fan theories, gossip blogs, insider leaks, and network panic. The Love and Hip Hop camp was falling apart faster than anyone could contain it. The PR team had already issued 2 carefully worded statements, both vague, both useless. Fans wanted the truth. Sponsors wanted results. The cast was walking on eggshells. Even with strict instructions to keep Yandy and Rasheeda apart, the tension seeped into everything. Every interview. Every confessional. Every whispered conversation in hair and makeup. It was no longer on set, it was in the air. Earlier that day, Carly Red and Ciara filmed a scene meant to be lighthearted. But halfway through, the script fell apart. Carly turned to the camera and said, "She ain't wrong for feeling played." Ciara fired back, "Rasheeda don't own the game. Everybody bossing up, she just can't handle it." The footage went straight to the editing room, uncut, unfiltered, and way too real. Producers did not even try to spin it. This was not manufactured drama. This was war on film. Meanwhile, that night, Yandy finally broke her silence on Instagram Live. Tens of thousands of viewers joined instantly. "Everybody wants to paint me as the villain," she said, her voice steady but fierce. "But they do not know what went down behind closed doors. I did not betray anybody. I protected myself, and I will do it again if I have to." Within minutes, the clip was everywhere. Fans flooded X, Twitter. Some praised her strength. Others dragged her for playing victim. And just when the dust began to settle, Rasheeda struck back. She posted a single black screen on her story. 4 words. White text. "You can't fake loyalty." That was it. No hashtags. No tags. No context. And yet, it detonated the internet all over again. Bloggers wrote entire articles about those 4 words. Reaction channels dissected